Hey Floss Tube, this is Tara with Wild Woman Crafts and welcome to my 2024 finish parade. I took some motivating to get to this point because I had to corral 60 finishes. That is correct, 60 finishes in 2024, which is a little bit mind-boggling. We're just gonna dive right into it. Okay, first of all, quick side note before we dive in though. Thank you so much for all of the positive feedback on my whip parade. There was quite a few of you who watched it. I was a little bit shocked, but to anyone who decided to stick around, thank you so much, and hopefully this will give you a little more of a picture of the type of stitching I like to do here. I would say that I have a pretty broad taste, but I feel like the one area I've really not dabbled in is really like reproduction samplers, big houses, even though there is a house in the whip parade you saw, but I definitely veer away from more prim things, but or it's like I like prim things that have a little bit of subversiveness to them, as you'll see in a couple of these. So anyway, I had some really big finishes in 2024 and I want to have an exciting place to look at them all together. And I think another thing that's really exciting I will share here is, so my unfully finished finishes live in this project roll, which was something I got for myself at StitchCon this year. So it just ties up and then unrolls, and so you can iron everything and it stays, you know, relatively flat. Obviously, the more there is in here, the harder that is to do. But I think what was encouraging, and I didn't really know what to expect as I was gathering everything, is there are only 2 projects in here remaining. So only 2 projects that I finished before 2024 that are not fully finished, which is kind of exciting. That makes me feel good. And the 2 that are in here are both on my WhipGo board, my Sofogo board, if you watched my whip parade through the plans for this year. So they should get dealt with. But that, I don't know. I don't really have like a timed, like from time to finish time I want fully finished. I just want them done. But anyway, I found it very encouraging that there was only 2 projects that were like outstanding from 2020 prior to 2024 that have not been fully finished. And then the other thing is, I do think my finish number this year was severely fluffed by the types of stitch-alongs and things I participated in last year. So I would not say this is a normal year for me. I don't really remember. I guess I can check real quick. Okay, yes. So I just checked in the Notion tracking template that I use to log all my cross stitch progress. I had 30 whips 30 finishes last year, and this year I had 60, like I said. So I don't think this is going to be normal. And the reason I think that those were inflated were the Stitch for Pride stitch along, which we'll get into, which I did as a spot sampler, but then counted them as individual finishes. And then I did another 12-month stitch along that was 12 individual pieces that I also counted separately. And then I also participated in an Ink Circles round robin, which, if that is not something you've seen before, we'll talk about it on my first piece, but basically I stitched a quarter of 4 charts. So I think it could be argued that maybe that's kind of one finish, because I only stitched a quarter of each of these charts. So if I were to strip away the Stitch for Pride finishes and count that as 1 instead of 12, and if I counted the round robin as 1 instead of 4, that would put me at 46 finishes, which is still quite a lot, but I don't really predict that that is how 2025 is going to go for me. But you never know. So it's an exciting year this year. I, kind of don't expect and sort of don't hope to have 60 finishes in a year in the future. So we'll just party it up while that's what's going on. So, okay, I know I immediately was like, let's dive in, but we did dive in. That's the caveat. So yeah, I'm gonna just do these in order from when I finish them. I can tell you when I started I'm not going to. I'm just gonna tell you when they got finished for me. an extra super last thing. I will try to say fabrics and threads. If I don't remember, you're welcome to ask. And also, I didn't mention this in my whip parade, but I will do the same thing that I did there, where if you are watching on your phone, or if you're like on your, if you're casting to your TV and you look in the description box, you can see all the projects at exactly when I show them. So if you ever want to reference back to this video, or if you just want to cut to a certain one, you can always click down there and they will be labeled and you can hop around, because I know I've been in that boat where like, you saw something in someone's whip parade and then you go back to find it and you're like, amazing, I have to scrub like 2 hours of a whip parade to find this. But okay, let's go without further ado. My first finish of the year is, let me make sure I have this. Nope, I had it upside down technically. Is Elegant Squid by Ink Circles. So this is the round robin I was referencing. So as you can see, this pattern repeats, these quadrants repeat 4 times. So I was in a group of stitchers who decided to help each other out and get one of these done for each of us. I didn't iron these also, sorry. You only get the whips ironed. There's 60 of these. So I stitched this quadrant. So when I called this a finish, I had only stitched this quadrant and then I mailed it off. And then the rest of these quadrants were stitched by Julie, Kansas City Girl in a Colorado World, Julie of Julie and Stitches 16, and Miriam of Marumi Designs. And they all have floss tubes, which you should be watching if you are not already. And I stitched this on a 32 count Aurora, I want to say, by Mystic Fabrics, maybe. And I finished this on January 8th, so I was very on top of the ball. I will say it is January 13th and I have not started our next round. So that is something. All right, these don't have bags to go into like the whip parade. Okay, so next up is a photo. I stitched Heartstring Samplery's Be Minty and finished this on January 9th, so the next day. This was a Smalls Exchange piece for the Winter and Stars Hollow virtual retreat hosted by the Black Needle Society that I participated in last year. I might have put the pattern up, we'll see, but basically, the joke is it's like B-E-E, Be Minty, so it's supposed to have bumblebees on it, but I swapped the bumblebees and made them dragonflies, and that is an homage to the Dragonfly Inn, which is a location in the Gilmore Girls world. So I did that and gave it away as an exchange piece, and so it got swapped, and you can now see it living in the back of Miss Chloe's floss tubes. So you can still see it, just I don't have it anymore. So that was my next finish in January. The next finish, oh yeah, I want to talk about with this. So in December 2023, I purchased the Nice List box from the Black Needle Society, which I also just finished opening this year's box this past December. If you're curious to see what kind of stuff is in there, it's a 25-day box, and they dazzle us every year. But in 2023, it was quite a shock Christmas morning to open a year-long stitch along, and we had all the finishing materials for it. So the stitch along was called the Celebrate All Year stitch along, and had 12 different patterns, one for every month, plus a bonus one in the Nashville Needlework Cookbook last year that were related to holidays and observances that maybe we don't typically hear about every month of the year. And so because of the bonus one, there was 13 charts total. So you'll see a lot of these, and I have fully finished a number of them. But so in the kit as well, we got this finishing stand. So it is a swappable display. They all have magnets on them. So I wanted to show this. The way it arrived, it was a untreated color, and I might jazz this up further in the future, but I did stain the wood, so I like it a little bit darker. But all that to say, this was month number 1. So this was National Hot Tea Month for January. So I have it up in its display right now. I'm so excited to get to enjoy these as the year goes through. And this is stitched on 32 count blue-gray, potentially. I'm not sure. I'm so sorry. It came in the kit. So the 25th day of the box had the the fabric for the first 3 charts. So they're all on the same, but it is a 32 count linen for sure, and all DMC. So that is that one. So if you ever see these round finishes, this is where they will hang out when their month is called. So that was my next finish in January. The next day I finished Ink Circles Swedish Neat Bell. This was a Jingle Ball class in 2022, and I'm still working through them, but it's a set of 6 ornaments. And this is the reindeer. I love his little backwards antlers. And I did do this in the called for finish. It does jingle, it's an ornament. And this is stitched on a 36 count platinum, I think, Edinburgh linen. It was a kit I bought for the class. So yeah, I have 3 more of these to go. And I love the organza ribbon and all that. So honestly, I'll just stick this back. Part of the reason I was like, girl, you got to finish this is a lot of these are seasonal and I'm ready to put stuff up. And I already had to get stuff out of the Halloween box, but that's neither here nor there. Next up, in my last January finish, was a Mill Hill kit. Ooh, it's furry. And this is Snowman Globe. Like I said, it's a Mill Hill kit, so I used the kit materials and beaded it and did the kind of like instruction beaded hanger here. It's got the cute little snowflake charm, and he's adorable. I love him. So he got to be on the tree this year. Very exciting. All right, next up, I started February off strong, February 1st. I finished Michelle Bendy's Pocketbook Peacocks. This was in the inaugural February Burb Crush, or not Burb Crush, sorry. Those are the bird crushes. Burb Box, B-I-R-B Burb, by Mislaid Pages. I purchased the first year's box, the second year's, and I'll be getting it this year. So if you're curious to learn about that box, you'll be seeing it in February. And so in these boxes, we tend to get patterns and kit supplies to stitch those patterns. So this was the runaway winner or fave for me of the box. There's some other good ones though that I want to stitch, but so this is on a 32 count, I believe I bought that year from Mislaid Pages. So that was a box exclusive, I'm assuming, and this palette is the dinky dies that were provided that year. So all the patterns that year use the same palette. And yeah, I love it. I was gonna say this pattern is released by Michelle. You can get it. It is just in a different colorway. It's not in this dinky dies palette anymore. Next up is my Whip Go call to fully finish, so it could be done by now, but what do you know? And this is a Lindy Stitches pattern, Silver Bells. Let me get you in here. And this is this darling little peacock, and this is stitched with the called for threads, which are DMC, and then 3 Forbidden Fiber Co. And this was in a the Nice List box in 2023, I want to say. So it was stitched with the kit fabric, which again I think was a 32 count linen, maybe in Glacier by someone. I am so sorry, I'm failing my pop quiz right now, but I have this information. You are welcome to know, but this was the kit. So yeah, this is slated to be fully finished this month, so keep a lookout. Hold me to it. Gotta start the year off right. Yeah, that's all I want to say about that. Next is a finish from the Starlight Stitchery's Pirate Stitching box. I purchased this box a couple years ago, and this is sadly the only chart I have stitched from it currently. But this is also Michelle Bendy. This is, yeah, just called Pirate Quaker. So like I said, Quaker's a more traditional style, but it's funny, it's pirates. This was stitched with all the provided flosses from the box, which were all Forbidden Fiber Co. I stitched this on a 36 count, oh shoot, I can think of it. It's Fiber on a Whim. But anyway, I will say I'm a little disappointed in how the white ended up showing up on this. It is like completely not there. There's a skull here and a skull here. And there's like kind of white in the compass rose points, and you really can't see it. You really can't. And in person, it's not much better. Like with the 3D effect of the stitching, it's a little bit better than how it's looking on camera. But that's okay. And I don't know how I want to fully finish this one yet, but it is on the board, so that will be my problem soon. Soon enough. But what is not on the board is my next one. So this is, I finished this in mid-February, and this is Evening Stroll by Autumn Lane Stitchery. This was in, one thing to know about me is I love a box. I love buying mystery boxes. So this was in Autumn Lane Stitchery's Halloween box in 2023. It was a full kit they provided, the finishing supplies and everything. So yeah, I just did it. This is their first beaded kit. The beads were provided. It is so cute. I love the colors. And yeah, I did the called for finish as a little easel. And I put a little sticker on the back with my info. And it's quite darling. I love this. I would love to see designers kind of think about, you know, these types of finishing, because just sewing this together, it's just sewn together. It's not glued in or anything. Very cool. Liked that one a lot. And it's stitched on perforated paper. That's what the kit was. Next up in February was the next of the Celebrate All Year charts. And this was National Pie Month. I mean, not that there's really a direction to it, but so this is National Pie Month. So again, what we got in that 25th day included the trim and everything. So this is all Lady Dot Creates trim. Very cute. And yeah, this is still on the called for fabric that was provided in the box. Love it. Okay, next up, this one is going to be a little different in how we talk about it, but that's okay. So next up is my Stitch for Pride sampler, and I will show you the whole thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep it on my desk, and we'll just highlight each artist as we go. But then we won't have to go over details because it is, yeah, all on the same fabric. So this is all stitched on 32 count baked clay by Fox and Rabbit. I love their linen. So January's motif was Keith Harring. And if I remember the threads, I'll say it, but I stitched it, or especially like if I think you can get the threads. But this was stitched with Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers Shades of Blue. And I love it. I love it. Okay. And then actually, sorry, the next finish I had, because I guess I did get started on this late. So I started Keith Harring on February 25th, finished it on the 26th, and then immediately started February's drop and finished it on the 29th, finished it on Leap Day. So this is Kehinde Wiley. That's that motif. And I stitched this with a Threadworks. It's like green grass or something. It's one of the Bird Crush threads up here. But yeah, so that's a Threadworks. And then next up was another Celebrate All Year chart. And it's funny, I feel like I started good and then got worse at this finish and then got better. But anyway, here's National Umbrella Month for March. So I finished that one. I love these little minty clouds. Love the rainbow. These are so fun. I love these. Yeah, they're all finished on discs. Very exciting. Okay, next up, oh my gosh. An Umbrella Month, sorry, was a March finish. So I only had 2 finishes in March. So one of them was National Umbrella Month, and the other one was this. So I guess I got behind on Stitch for Pride like immediately after I got caught up. But this was a humongous finish. I did not stitch all of this year. This is, I don't know what the name of all of these are, but specifically the piece that I finished this year, started and finished in March, was Winter in Stars Hollow. So we'll get in on here. This is a piece by Katie Landis of the Black Needle Society. This was the end of a 4-year box. So there was like a box associated with this and a virtual retreat. And I challenged myself this year and succeeded that I started this Wednesday night when the retreat kicked off. And I finished it before the retreat was over on Sunday, which was shocking to me because this is a little over 9,000 stitches. It is completely full coverage. And yeah, so we'll just quickly take a tour. This is also on my list to be fully finished this year. So this was Autumn in Stars Hollow. This was the first chart. Oh yeah, there we go. Cuts off at the Dosey's Market here and half of the gazebo. And then we have Summer in Stars Hollow, the other half of the gazebo and half of the guitar. And then we had Spring in Stars Hollow. So cute. So I did winter and now the whole piece is done, which is crazy. This is probably the biggest thing I've ever stitched. I don't know. I think because it's full coverage, it probably beats out some of the other ones. I don't know. We'll see. But I stitched this, I stitched this on a 32 count white even weave. You know, it's full coverage, so didn't need to get too fancy with that. And I used all of the called for DMC, but then every section had like fancy flosses as the background color to give a little more intrigue. And I used all the Forbidden Fiber Co. conversions. So I would buy the Forbidden Fiber Co. floss pack every year. And there's a couple substitutions I made with that along the way, but that's the pack that I started with every time. So that was a ginormous finish in March. And then in April, oh yeah, that's in this one, I went to Texas for the total solar eclipse. And I stitched this little Pixie cross stitch piece. And let's see, do I have it on here? If that's who that's by? Yes, Pixie cross stitch. I stitched this while I was there. The words are kind of ghosting a little bit, but honestly, that's okay and very indicative of what ended up happening because there was a ton of clouds and I didn't really see it. I went all the way there, but so yeah, it says total solar eclipse, Bandera, Texas, because that's where my friend's house was, where we were hanging out at, and it says April 8th, 2024. It's got these adorable little native birds with their little viewing glasses on and the total eclipse there. I did use glow in the dark thread. Yeah, and it lives in my cross stitch journal. This was a Michelle Bendy collab with Twisted Rabbit Creations years ago, and I'm slowly filling it out. I have a lot more room to add. So that was a happy addition to that one for sure. Next in April, I finished, this will be a photo, my next round robin contribution. So this is Green Damsel by Ink Circles. And this is Julian Stitch's piece. And so I stitched, when it left me, this is what it looked like. She used a mix of threads from different dyers, very gorgeous. We love it. And it was very fun to stitch on. I think it was like a 36 count. Thank you so much, Julie, for allowing me to stitch on your beautiful project. Okay, and then next up, we were catching up on Stitch for Pride again. So next up is this giant sriracha bottle. And this is Stephanie H. Shih. So that was the next one I finished in late March? No, April. Fully in April. Sorry, April 20th. And then I immediately then jumped down to the April piece, which was the Kiss and Tell Collective here. And so yeah, the Stephanie, this one is, I want to say it's Live and Die LA. It was like Tequila Sunset. But I think that was a limited edition for a box. And then this is a Night Stalker's Calling. I think in maybe not Jane Jetson. That was the other one I had looked at. This is a Night Stalker's Calling. Sorry, I am totally failing, but love that. This was such a good process to use like threads I've never used. So that was that. Next up, I had two more Celebrate All Years. So this one is definitely my worst finish. Don't judge it too harshly. which is sad because it's one of my favorite charts. Maybe I'll get the gumption to re-thread it, but it is kind of glued on now. But anyway, this is National Astronomy Month, which I think actually, yeah, I think this is the correct orientation. There we go. By Katie Landis. And so this is stitched on 32 count navy blue by Witchelt, I believe, which was the called for. So we love that. And the called for DMC and all that. All of these I stitched with the called for DMC. And then next up, I had gotten my hands on the Nashville cookbook, and I got the extra finishing pack because this was not included in the 12. So for March was not only National Umbrella Month, it was National Craft Month. How darling is that? And so this is stitched on my last fabric. Oh gosh, I don't know. They're all 32 count. Yeah, I really like this. So pretty with the lady dot trim. So I stitched that one up next. And then scroll down here. Oh yeah, another one I don't have. So I did another swap for StitchCon, and I chose to stitch on Lila Studios Spring Parade 2, which is a collection of like rabbits and cars, and I stitched the Radish car and finished it into this pillow that hopefully you're seeing, and the recipient really enjoyed it, so I'm really glad for that. That was a really fun and positive swap experience for my first in-person retreat. I was really excited. Haven't decided if I'm doing one this year though, but that was really awesome and I really loved it. It's very cute. So that is that one. Next up is my next portion of the round robin. So this is Victorian License by Ink Circles, and this is Miriam's piece. She had a stitch on, I believe, like a 22 count Ada, or it was a very unique fabric. It was very cool to stitch on. I liked it a lot. And we stitched with Sulky. We stitched with one Sulky for hers, which was gorgeous. It was such a fun experience. It was definitely something I'm filing away for the future, for future projects for me. I liked it a lot. So this is Miriam's Victorian License and where it was when I sent it off. Okay, next up is the May Celebrate All Year chart, which is National Strawberry Month, which is so darling. And I love the little chocolate strawberries. So cute, so good. Love it. It's on that same navy blue. Okay, next up is one that I'm not going to show. It was a request from a friend who also requested we not show it, and that is that. That's all I have to say about that, but it happened. So if you're double checking my tally, that's in there. Next up was my next stitch for Pride, which is up on the top here. And this was Yishay Garbasz, I believe. And with these barbed wire motifs. And for this one, I used a Forbidden Fiber Clo from the Clue box. So I think this was called the Craft Room. So yeah, that was very cool. I liked that one a lot. It was a lot of fun to stitch. So we were keeping up with that, which we love to see. So next up, I worked on my next Swedish Neat Bell. I believe it was a Whip Go Call, so that's probably why that got called, or why this is happening at that point. But this is the Angel from this series. And again, bought this all as a kit, stitched on 36 count, called for finish, called for thread. So this is just 310. I didn't say it's 310, and then which we had to provide ourselves, and then we got a couple of links of the called for classic colorworks in all of these. So that one is done. Love. And that was in, let's see, we're in May. Sorry, I don't know if I said that. And then my last finish for May, I had 2 finishes on the last day of May. Look at me. The next one, which this is on the on the board to get finished fully finished this year is Bonaventure Morning Sampler. Bonaventure Morning Sampler by Park Hopper Bart. This was in a box, and that box would be it was Fangirl Fibers 31 Days of Haunted America box. And I don't think this has been released. Called for DMC. And then it was stitched on this absolutely heinous fabric that I believe is a witch holt now. But we powered through. And so I have the other half. If anyone likes it, you could probably get me to send it to you, because I didn't like it. I didn't like any part of it. Alrighty, so that takes us into May. June. I'm already losing it. And this one was a big, highly anticipated finish for me this year. This is Salem Sisters Apothecary by Primrose Cottage Stitches, and I'm obsessed. So I stitched this on 32 count doubloon by Picture This Plus, and I stitched it with Fiberlicious Yummy Fibers Shades of Gray thread, and I love it. It gave me exactly the kind of like weathered look I wanted. And this is the like model finish. There's an Etsy store, More Men Made, I believe. You can reach out if you want to get a hold of this. They put these up periodically and they go pretty fast, but if you follow their Instagram, they do announce when they're gonna drop. So it wasn't too bad to get my hands on it once I was looking for it, if you know what I mean. So love this. I probably need to put a sticker on the back with its info, but I did get to have this hung up this October fall season, so that was very exciting. Halloween season, whatever. Next up was a start and finish this year. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them have been. This wasn't, but this was a start and finish at the same month. Because we got, this is from a box, surprise, surprise. So this is called Bring Me Her Heart by Katie Landis, I believe is the person who designed this, yeah, of the Black Needle Society. So this was in their, every year they do kind of like a book focused box, and the theme was like villains, I want to say. So in this box was very cool. We got this chart, we got the materials, and the finishing supplies, and then we actually had a finishing class with Lois of Lady Doc Creates, which was very special. So we did this flat finish with a pocket on the back, and also in the box we got this little mirror that says, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this land is fairest of all?" I won't flash you, but it is a mirror. So we have this cute little mirror pocket on the back, and yeah, everything, all these little pins. So cute, so fun. Really enjoyed that class and enjoyed this stitch. I think I worked on this when I got home from, I think I started it at StitchCon, but then I had COVID afterwards. So this was a good like laid up stitch. So it was all the kit materials for that. And that was, yep, we're still in June. Okay, and then next up, this was another like StitchCon start. So for Marjorie Maid hosted the Strawberry Moon Sal last year, and I believe from her Whip Parade, she is still hosting it this year. So get your strawberry patterns ready. But I picked this Strawberries in Summer Mini Cat by Stitching Fairy Crafts. I think I saw this in Cross Stitch the Globe's like freebie summer patterns video. It was a freebie, and I stitched this on the bottom of my Salem Sisters Apothecary because that was a StitchCon finish for me, and it was in a different orientation, and I didn't cut it off because I don't like to cut the fabric until I'm done, and it really bugged people. People were deeply upset that I was just working in a corner when, you know, like Salem Sisters was in this orientation, but didn't bug me. So this is 32 count doubloon by Picture This Plus. And I used, I think, all the called for DMC. I'm not really sure. But it's very darling. And there are mistakes in that because some of this was stitched at like 1, 2 in the morning. I'm not worried about it. And this will probably go in that cross stitch journal. Awesome. Next up was another Stitch for Pride finish. So this was the June drop. And so June was, or sorry, maybe it was May. I'm getting confused now. I'm not sure. The next drop, let's see, January, February, March, April, May. Yeah, May's chart. So I was behind again. This is Frida Kahlo. And I stitched this with the Dinky Dyes in, I'm not sure what color, but I know it's Dinky Dyes, so a silk. So we finished that. And then I was on some finishes. So if you just watched my whip parade, I promise you it is done. I showed an incomplete picture and talked about it being finished. But this is Visit Winchester House with all of the grass in. And shout out to, this is a Michelle Bendy Stitchy chart. Shout out to her for making the grass 10 stitch. I think that's really fun. It adds a little like texture and it wasn't as much stitching. So we love that. So this was also from the Fangirl Fibers 31 Days of Haunted America box. I believe this is released. And this should be fully finished this month. We hope. So this is again the kit. If you want some of this, I'm in the market to get rid of it. So I didn't even cut it off because I'm like, what am I going to do? Use it on something else? I don't think so. I don't think so. All the call for DMC on that one. Next up is my Biscornu finish for the year. So this is Merry Meow Miss by Stitchy Pros. There is a Halloween one that is also, I also have into a Biscornu. But yeah, so we got a little gingerbread cat, a little snow cat, a reindeer cat, and a Santa cat. So freaking cute. And then yeah, here's the bottom. So whoop. I stitched this on 32 count vintage country mocha. And you know, I was worried about the, you know, the browner cat sticking out, but I think they look fine. Using all the called for DMC. And I love it. So it's been sitting, it was behind me in this holiday season. So that was fun. And that was my first finish of July. Sorry, we've tipped over. So next up is, I believe, June's Celebrate All Year chart. Wow, this one has so much hair on it. My goodness. But this is National Camping Month. And this was the last on this navy blue, which I was not upset to be done with. So many cute little things. I got the little snail, the little s'mores, the little frog. So stinking cute. Called for DMC, called for fabric, called for finish. It's got the lady dot trim, the chenille. So we did that. And then I worked on my Smalls Exchange piece for the second retreat I went to, which was Camp Black Needle Society. So this is Ringing in Good Cheer by Satsuma Street. And I'll tell you, every time I see this on this list, I'm like, I should have kept it. But no, the recipient is awesome. And we actually got to meet and hang out. And she sat at my table at Stitch North later in the year. So shout out to Megan. Very cool that some of my swap pieces, so the Gilmore Girls swap piece we talked about at the beginning is living in Australia, crazy. And this one is living in Alaska. So that's pretty special. It's worth it to let go. And, you know, they said when it's hard to let go, I think is when you know it was worth giving, right? So this is, yeah, Bringing in Good Cheer by Satsuma Street. I am excited to hopefully see a couple more of these stitched up this year. I know Elizabeth of Savory Sewing and Stephanie of Cross Stitch the Globe are doing their Jingle Ball Baubles, and I think this is on both of their boards. It's a fantastic one, and I hope they do it because I love it. And who knows, maybe this will be my first restitch because I freaking love it. It's so cute. It came out so good, if I do say so myself. So I stitched this on perforated paper with the called for DMC, bought the bells at Michael's, had the ribbon laying around, and yeah, that's the called for finish in the Bauble book, if you have seen that before. So next up was another Stitch for Pride finish, and so this was Jeffrey Gibson, and this was stitched with a Fiberlicious in like stormy, after the storm, stormy rains, I don't know, like that. It came from my journal kit actually, but And in this one, it's kind of hard to see with the striping of the floss, but it does say time will tell if you look real close in there. So that was a very cool one. Alrighty, next up, our next Celebrate All Year chart. You can see how Sal's really ate up the time. This is National Hot Dog Month for July. And this is stitched on Wichelt Riviera Aqua. And this is when I learned I have mad beef with Wichelt. This was heinous to stitch on. I thought about changing it, but the teal is so good. I just love the colors. I love the contrast with the trim. So I fought through it, and I fought through the other pieces of this month, you'll see, or like this quarter. So the next 3 months we're gonna be this Riviera Aqua. Yeah, so we made it through National Hot Dog Month. Alrighty, so next up, another one I don't have. This is Felicity the Lobster by Emily Peacock. This is a pretty unique kit. I think I first saw Amity of the Hathaway Stitchers stitching on Ruby the Giant Squid, and that design looked like something that my Montana friend, as she's known on the channel, it's just part of the lore, that I thought Montana friend would love. And so I had shared the Etsy with her, and she did love it. I was completely correct, but I told her, I was like, listen, because Montana friend has some arm issues that prevent her from being able to stitch comfortably, unfortunately, even though she was a large reason I got into stitching. But because she used to stitch more, but it is not as feasible for her now. I told her, I was like, listen, before you get any crazy ideas, I do love these designs as well. I will stitch one for you, but I'm not stitching that squid. I refuse. So she ended up buying 2 kits, one for her, one for me. And I think going into it, we thought that I would have to stitch both, but actually, surprisingly, since this is a really big thing, I don't know exactly what the count is. I have to imagine it's like 7 to 9 count. It's this like canvas that starts very stiff, but working it in hand, it actually got extremely soft by the time I was done with it. So I stitched this entirely in hand, and it was with Anchor wool tapestry yarn, I guess you would call it a yarn, that all came with the kit. It was such a fun experience. This came with me to Camp Black Needle. And yeah, it was just really enjoyable. It was, talk about the perfect, like, just kind of blocking out a section. And then I think my memory of this summer was watching Love Island every night and trying to get 200 stitches in this to try to get it before I visited with her, later in the summer. And I did. So I think I did finish it before I actually went on the trip, or I had like, a handful of stitches left, but I think I finished it before I left, which was quite exciting. So yeah, this is Felicity the Lobster. I don't know if I said that. By Emily Peacock, all kit materials, and it lives with Montana friend. And she stitched, I'll just pitch because, this is a joint project for us this year. She stitched, what is her name? Oh, Tina the Crab. She stitched Tina the Crab. I love Tina. And so they will be pillows, and I will update when they become pillows. But right now they are just 2 roommates at Montana friend's house. That's all I know. Okay, starting to get delirious here. Okay, so that was my first Felicity was my first finish in August. Next in August was the Next Stitch for Pride motif, and this was Hangama Amiri. And that is this motif right here, which maybe didn't end up popping as much as I had hoped, but this is another Night Stalker's Calling, and I do believe this was Jane Jetson, which I got from a box. But I love these colors, and I love this kind of like splotchier style that Night Stalker's Calling has, as opposed to the more like stripey. I love it. It lends itself better to just kind of going where you naturally want to stitch, and not feeling so pressed about like, is it gonna look hella stripey? Even though I liked the stripey, I knew I was committing to the stripey, but it was just fun. It was a fun, different experience. Amazing. One more finish for August was National Peach Month. How stinking cute. On that same 32 count Witchell Aqua Riviera. This one I did boil, and that did help, but I still hated it. And I'm still working on, September's the last one that's on this fabric, and I'm still working on September. I bailed on that one. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I think technically that's the correct orientation. But yeah, so that's the next one for that. And then September 6th, a huge finish for this year, what I had been laboring on all summer, The Deadly Aquarium by Lola Crow Cross Stitch. My goodness. This was my first Lola Crow Sal, and I had a fabulous time, but oh my gosh, I also complained most of the time. I was like, this is like a part-time job. It is shocking that any other stitching got done in this time, because these were weekly drops. There were a couple of off weeks, but they were weekly drops that I would say averaged 900 to 1,000 stitches a week, just on this. But it was so worth it. We'll get you up in there. I love it. So this was stitched on 40 count Eucalyptus by Atomic Ranch. And actually, for funsies, I'll probably, well, this is probably going to be where this lives, because I don't know if this will come up in my regular floss tube or not. But over the holidays, I had convinced my brother's girlfriend, who is newer to stitching, to do this stitch along with me, which was, in hindsight, quite an ask on my part. I had never done one before, so I hadn't like lived the experience of a Lola Crow Sal before. But she had a great time, and she was a great sport. But she stitched this on 14 count Aida. And so over the holidays, even though she is not done, she has, you know, a good bit left, I told her, I was like, I don't care. She was being so funny. She was like, I just feel like it feels like you're turning in incomplete homework to your teacher. And I was like, girl, I just want to see the stitches. Because I knew she had done the frame and stuff. So anyway, I just want to put this photo up just for funsies, because I was like, it's going to be very cool to see 40 count versus, and this is over 2, so it's like a 20 count, right? 20 count versus 14 count. And the size difference, and boy, the size difference. It was so cool to see. I think it confirmed for me that even though I did love doing this, and this is like a great size for this, part of it, I think my heart lies in more of the 32 count end of things. Like, as far as high count goes, it just felt so much more like dramatic and like gravitas. I just love the way her stitches look. But so she's doing great. So everybody encourage her. She's gonna get there. She said she lost a lot of motivation once I wasn't texting her every Friday with like to talk about the new drop that we had just gotten. So that's, you know, I think we can all relate to that. Okay, next up, I was at, this was a start at Camp Black Needle, but I did not finish it there because I was working on my lobster. But this is the Solstice Snail. So this in-person retreat hosted by the Black Needle Society, every year they have a theme. It's like colloquially, it's like called camp, but camp was technically the theme the first year. I think the second year it was like carnival. And then this year it was on holiday. And so he has a little passport. Oh, you can see this needle minder. Yeah, so the reason that this is still like with a needle and a needle minder and stuff is we got this fabric at the retreat, and there was a bigger retreat piece, so this is actually like kitted in a bag. But I don't know how I want to finish him, but he's on the board this year too. And this is all the called for classic colorworks that we got in our like swag bag. Okay, next up was my last round robin piece, which is crazy that I finished that in September. This is Reflections of Scotland by Ink Circles, and this was Julie, Kansas City Girl in a Colorado Worlds piece, and she had this stitched on a Nicholas Flamel linen with a Gloriana silk and Highland Garden, I believe. So perfect name, perfect theme, incredible color combo. Loved stitching on this as well. Thank you. I didn't say thank you to Miriam, but thank you to Miriam. Thank you to Julie. And thank you to Julie again for letting me stitch on your pieces. They're so beautiful. It was so fun. And then I really hunkered down in September and I got the finish I had been waiting for so many years. This was my oldest whip and it is knocked out this year, and this is Twisted Rainbow Sampler, and she is done. I gushed about this a lot when I finished it, and that was only a couple months ago, so I won't belabor the point here, but we'll give you the slow pan. So this is Twisted Rainbow Sampler by Northern Expressions Needlework. I did the Dinky Dyes silk pack that I purchased from Mislaid Pages. It's on a 28 count Lugana from 123 Stitch. And I did the specialty band version, so you can see it alternates between cross stitch and specialty bands. So hopefully you got a pretty good view in there. I'm trying to be better about getting some up close stitching, even though, please be nice. I'm sure there's a lot of hair in this, but I love it. And this is absolutely on the to be fully finished this year list. But I am torn. If this gets called on WhipGo before June, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I kind of want to bring this to StitchCon, but I don't think I could bring it framed. So I think it might have to be a post StitchCon framing job, because I want to take her on the road. Okay, and then next up, we were catching up on Stitch for Pride, looks like. So I did September's and October's. So September's piece was this little shark teeth motif by Lahua Uakea. And this is stitched in, I think, Fiberlicious shades of brown. I was really getting a lot of use out of my shades of set, which we love. And then over here for October, this very tall one was Edward Gorey, and that was my next finish. Oh wow, okay, so I jumped. So I technically finished the September Stitch for Pride piece in September, and Edward Gorey was my next finish, and that was like almost a month later. I almost went a month with no finishes. Yep, so this is him, and this is stitched with I can't recall, but that was October. And then next up, we're back to another huge finish, highly anticipated, was working on it all year, and now it's finally done. My next oldest whip at that point, Dinosaur Forest by Owl Forest Embroidery. And I had the kit for this. Get you up a little closer here. So I used all the kit flosses, the kit fabric, and when I will toot my own horn here. So when I started this year, I'm going to put where this was in my whip parade in January 2023. I mean, it was a big comeback, because basically January 2023, I had almost nothing done. And I said, if I don't really put some, like, I hadn't really touched it in 2023. And I was like, if I don't put some significant stitching in this, I might need to let it go. And I was like, well, and what do you know? It's done. 9 months later, 10 months later. Crazy, crazy. So that was a very satisfying, love all the variegation, incredible. And shout out to Sarah from I Swear I Am Stitching, because she finished all the dinos. Wasn't sure if she was gonna, oh, I'm so sorry. Was there a hanging thread on that the whole time? Oops. She wasn't sure she was gonna do the border, and then just did the entire border. I don't think I would have been able to handle it with that approach, so shout out to you. Okay, so those were kind of probably my two biggest, like, grand finale type finishes, but we still have many more to go. We're in October. So next up, we're officially in the part of Celebrate All Year where I have not fully finished these yet, but that's okay. So during Stitch North in October, I finished October Celebrate All Year. I missed September, as you might have caught. And this is National Dessert Month. I love the colors in this. but boy, some of that little confetti was very annoying. I'm looking at the chart and I'm like, there's like 10 colors that have under 20 stitches. Are you kidding me? But it looks great. So that was very fun. And this is on my last fabric, which, like I said, I could probably figure this one out. Okay. I'll tell you this one. I'm so sorry. This is 32 count Silver Fox by Fiber on a Whim. So that's what October, November, and December will be on. And it's what National Craft Month was on, because I had a bigger cut of that. Yep, so that is done. That was the end of October. And then right after Stitch North, so on my way home from Stitch North, I should say, I started and finished and then fully finished the little kit they gave us, this little wooden ornament. This is my Stitch North 2024 ornament. It came with a little velveteen sticker backing, and I had some, you know, just ribbon lying around. So this is all Roxy Floss Co. threads, and it was a collab between Evertote, Roxy Floss Co. and Canadian Stitchery, I want to say. But yeah, so got that done because, you know, I saw the tree up and I was like, well, dang, I should get on that. And then next up, also from Stitch North, so my table mate and friend, Hillary of Subpar Stitches, she made everybody little kits, which was very darling, and a lot of our stuff was Halloween themed because we all like Halloween, and Stitch North in the fall was a couple days before. It was like up to the 27th, I think. So it was very Halloween season. Oh, the glare. So I got this little cat, and she gave us all the supplies to like fully finish it into a keychain. So this will probably be a project bag tag for me. But I went ahead and put Stitch North SN24 on the bottom to memorialize when I received this. And it's just, yeah, little patterns that she designed. So freaking cute on Black Ada. She gave us little thread cards and everything, and I freaking love it. So it's all done. It's not a perfect job, but it's in there. Awesome. So that was my last finish for October. And then in November, this is no longer with me as well. November 1st, I started my custom piece that I designed for my grandpa that I don't know, kind of calling the Irish drinking song. I don't really know. I stitched on this until it was done as a Christmas present that he received this year. I framed it in December, so it is no longer with me. It is at my grandpa's house. And he was very happy to receive it, so very happy to stitch it for him. And I used specialty flosses on hand. I think in my last floss tube I talked about it because it's that recent of a finish. We're getting into the end here for November. Yeah, so I probably won't, you know, all of these, if you've been around for a shorter length of time, you've probably definitely seen. But so I finished that, and then immediately Jingle Ball Panic hit. So my next and I guess, anyway. Next up, I finished the stitching for this. Didn't do the fully finish next, but, you know, I finished the stitching for one of my classes this year, which was Tiny Modernist Gingerbread House. And then obviously was able to fully finish this following the class instructions. I did participate during the class, but I didn't quite. It took me a little longer than 2 hours to finish, as these things are wont to do. But I freaking love this. I got the rest of her PDFs at the Jingle Ball and hope to make a couple more. So that was very exciting. And then I squeezed in, because we're staying on top of stuff at the end of the year, the November Stitch for Pride motif was Molly Vaughn. And for this, I used an Almond M&M Silk and Hugo, which I crowdsourced. Thank you all for your help. I like it. I was getting kind of torn on what threads to use at that point, so I really quite like this. And then my other Jingle Ball class, I finished this mere hours before the class, but it, you know, that was enough time. So this is #Joy by Hands On Design. And again, I participated in the class, and I think I got the piece stitched on and maybe like 2 parts of the tree stitched on. And then it took me like all the next day. This is all wool felt. I made this pillow from the class materials. I adore this. This is a top finish for me this year. Certainly a top fully finish. And at that point, I was fully thrown into Christmas stitching. So next on December 10th, I squeezed this in before I had to travel home with it. I finished To All a Good Night by Autumn Lane Stitchery, and this is stitched on a 28 count white opal linen. All the called for. This was from the Black Needle Society's 2022 Nice List box, I believe. But you can definitely buy this. And this one's on the list to get fully finished this year as well. And then while I was at my parents' for the holidays, I started and finished another Stitch North piece, Canada Goose. So this was a gift from my table mates, Amity and Aaron of the Hathaway Stitchers. They gave our whole table one of these, and several of us have stitched it. And I was so annoying in my house because I was like, look, it's a goose with his treasure. It's my first Mill Hill that has what they label a treasure, like a bigger bead. But he's got lots of beads. He's very dapper. So obviously need to fully finish him, but those aren't too bad to do. Next up, I had a start and a finish Christmas Day because I got invited to a dog's birthday party. And I had this from the Advent that I was opening, the other one, which was Crafty Gurumi's 24-day Advent box. And so I got a kit to make a card with the thread, with the fabric, with the pattern, the whole thing. And this is what it looked like. So this pattern was called Winter Trees. So this is my Winter Trees card. And the recipients were very happy to receive it. And I was very happy to get to use my Advent supplies already. So that was super fun. And I'm glad that I hauled it with me across the country. So that was very exciting. And then I skipped. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oops. Before To All a Good Night, I finished Stitch for Pride because that was another one I was like, I don't want to haul this. I want this to be done. So I did finish, December's motif of Stitch for Pride, which was Robert, Indiana. And this is with a cottage garden threads in terracotta. And I love the way that one came out. Okay, so that was the fully finish on that one. And then I had two other finishes at the very end of the year. Snuck them in. December 27th, I finished the December Stitch for Pride chart, or December Celebrate All Year chart, which was National Safe Toys and Gifts Month. I love the way this came out. This is on that silver fox that I showed you from Fiber on a Whim. Love it. So yeah, completely missed November's, but that's okay. And last but not least, December 30th, I snuck it in. I've been working through this flamingo trio from Hands On Design, and I finished Flamingo All the Way. And this is on a 28 count Crystal Dwarf linen from, is it Crystal? Yeah, Crystal Dwarf Lugana, sorry, from Picture This Plus. And I did all uncalled for flosses. I pulled just a conversion that is the same concept, but all different threads. Yeah, so I have one more of these to stitch and I'll be done with that series. And I have finishing these, the two that I have on the to-do list this year. So that is it. I tried my best to go as fast as possible through these 60 things. And I know I mentioned in my whip parade that I would go into more stats here, but quite frankly, I don't know if I have it in me. So, but I will rehash quickly the little graphic that I had in my whip parade, which is that for the year I stitched 161,789 stitches, which I believe is quite a bit more than last year, but it's tricky because this was the first full year that I was tracking in Notion. I started tracking in Notion on the back, like I believe in July of 2023. So I had a good amount of stuff, and I always wrote my stitch counts down when I was working with digital patterns, but prior to Notion, I wasn't a stickler about counting stitches when I was using paper patterns, but now I am. So in the few cases that I am working off a paper chart, I have my clicker and I write it down every time. So and also, again, this number is a little bit, this is definitely like for cross stitches, because the Twisted Rainbow sampler had all those specialty things. And obviously I know that a lot of people just do like for every 2 passes of the thread, you count that as 1 stitch kind of no matter what you're doing, which I totally think counts. But for me, those specialty bands had enough going on without me worrying about stitch count, if you know what I mean. So this does not really reflect all those specialty bands. But yeah, so it'll be curious to see. But so I think last year, my total for the year was closer to 100,000 of what I know that I stitched. So it's interesting to see like 60,000 more stitches. So it will be much more telling, I think, to see how this year goes compared to 2024 for how normal that is, or how much maybe I was missing counting in 2023. But that's neither here nor there. I will throw up my little monthly stitches graphic now that it's finished, and I showed this at my mid-year whip parade. So as I said, in the current whip parade, my stitchiest month was July, barely. It edged out March. And my lowest stitchiest month was January, which I feel is typical because usually I'm just kind of tired and kind of meh, and January is sad. And then I also will put up my starts versus finishes chart. I did finish this. So this shows my fully finishes versus my finishes versus my starts. I debated showing my fully finishes on this video, but quite honestly, I didn't track that well enough. I think that's going to be an update for this coming year. Somewhere in the middle of the year, I finally added a fully finished date to my pieces. But yeah, so I mean, obviously you saw a lot of these that I started this year, I finished this year, and quite a number of them are fully finished. So you probably saw most of the 37 fully finishes, but then I had some big frame stuff. I don't know, whatever. I'll just say anything that was spectacular enough that was like a big frame is probably in a thumbnail if you want to go back and look to see how that ended up happening. Because I know I framed my Dark Queen of the Earth, but that wasn't a finish this year. I framed my Mushrooms of Hyrule back here, and then I finished up the Bird Crush Club earlier this year. So there was definitely other fully finishes, but just the overlap of like, wait, what was a finish this year that was fully finished versus a fully finished that was not. Anyway, a note for next year. I will try to keep all that a little bit more straight, but in the interest of being done with all of the end of year videos, I'm having fun. I do love to film these. It's very cool, but I'm ready to keep it moving. And then I did, this doesn't really bother me, or I don't really think about this too much, but it's just interesting to see. This is my percentage of days stitching per month. So the month I missed the most days was January, no kidding. And I missed a total, there was 45 days in 2024 that I didn't stitch, which is kind of crazy. And I was surprised on the back half of the year that I had 2 months at 100%. I don't even think I knew that in July and September that I stitched every single day in the month. I'm sure I like noticed it at the time, but that's interesting to see. And then I, in my mid-year, did like designers I've stitched on the most of, but again, I just, to be honest with you, don't have it in me to fill out the rest of that chart. But again, things to think of for the future. And hopefully you saw in that graphic, yeah, the things I worked the most on days wise, and Deadly Aquarium takes the cake for most days worked on and most stitches put into. I think I was looking at it earlier because I just watched Frizzy Lizzy Stitches, and I thought that was interesting how she had graphics of like what she worked the most days on versus what she put the most stitches into. So I mean, it's pretty tightly correlated, right? But so Deadly Aquarium had the most stitching on it. Felicity the Lobster was second, and then I think Dinosaur Forest was third. But anyway, those are some things. I had a great year in 2024 stitching wise and otherwise for the most part, nothing really serious to complain about. But yeah, I am looking forward to making progress next year. Like I said, hoping in some ways to not have 60 finishes. Because that will mean I haven't started 40 things between now and then. So that is the hope for me. And I hope you got some stitching done and you've been enjoying this. And I didn't say this in my whip parade, but I typically upload normal updates every 2 weeks. Obviously right now we're still very much in a chaos moment. But I do hope to shortly film my next regular floss my words are flipping now. Floss tube update very soon, because I have some things that I want to put away and they're sitting out. So yes, that it will be kind of the last thing from me, and then hopefully we can get to our 2-week check-ins, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you around then. Thank you so much for being here. Let me know what you're working on below, and take care, everyone. Bye.